So psychiatry was countered by the introduction of Tai Chi to counter the white man's BS. And I'm going to go back to Man and His Symbols, Carl Jung, just for this EK Hotep and Namde Heru series. I'd like to note on page 184, you see a picture of a woman and her breasts. She's a gorgeous woman, and there's another one with a snake and around her neck, and it's really the psychological effect it has on you. I'd also like to fast forward to Plutarch, if I can remember where this was. I believe it was like, let me find the chapter first. But anyway, he starts talking about the Plutarch and the mysteries, and how the symbols that you see are connected, and the symbols you see in the landscape. Here, it's around this section somewhere. I was refreshing myself on earlier. I don't want to introduce too much of the book because I've touched on it, I've referenced it before. Basically, this book talks about man's symbols and different paintings and the evolution. It starts off in the beginning. You know that these people are serious. There's several pictures I'm looking for that make it clear. Here's one picture that it gives you an idea what kind of people you're dealing with. So maybe it's these kind of old-fashioned thought, and they tell you a little bit about them in the beginning, whatever. And here we go. Let's just find it in the prelude. I believe it's actually, I just want to say chapter 2. Chapter 2 is Ancient Myths and the Modern Man. And we talk about a lot of this stuff in my series, and a lot of these, the Etruscans and the mysteries and the symbolism within them. And these people talk about Greek and Medusa and Perseus. And he goes into the realm of, he touched on a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about. And he touches on a lot of foreign cultures and a lot of pictures I can't show you because of, this is YouTube and they, have certain guidelines or whatever. So, it talks about symbols of transcendence, to give you an idea that there's certain things they don't want you to do with symbols, and there's certain things they do. And before this quick video is up, I want to also touch on the couple pictures. That one is a group picture, and the other is the mysteries of Plutarch. Did I show you this? This is the beginning of the book. Okay, it just automatically jumps right into Egypt, for those of you who don't know, and talks about this guy, right? And how Jung's thoughts and 500 illustrations complement the text throughout this book, and it has all these symbols, and how he's an expert and he knows about psychology and as well. And he talks about thoughts on page 155. The Egyptian god thought was the head of a bird is in a relief thought underworld associated with transcendence. Okay, who is called Psychopomp, soul guide. So notice psychiatry, psycho, etc. They're guiding your soul, by doing eugenics on you, and they're using the symbol of thought to do it. And you see on this page, there's the order of medicine, and that's page 153. I'm almost out of time. So they're telling you flat out what they're doing after I told you, and I'm the descendant of Daniel Boone, a brain surgeon, scored top 1 percentile in the SATs, went to one of the top high schools. I've had years and years of college, been discriminated on, and taken notes, mental notes, physical notes, recordings, evidence. And, if you really understand what these people are about, they're putting it in a way that's very intellectual and sophisticated, so it's hard for the average person to understand. The average person would start reading this book and, they would know it's interesting, but they'd be inclined not to finish it because of the way it's worded. And that's something that people from the old-fashioned, it's more likely to appeal to an old-fashioned person, older person in secret society who's had the book, given to them as a gift or recommended to them. Now, it talks about the number 13 on page 96, but for the sake of not cursing myself, and no, I'm not really worried about it. I'm with God and whatnot, but they talk about the mysteries. Here we go. There's so many books I had covered. I covered like 3 or 4 other books in this one. That's why I forgot where the Plutarch was. I knew I should have put a note to it. It was right where I started with the women. Right where I started with the women. Okay, it's in that area. So it talks about the Mediterranean, page 193. And it's sadistic. It's, you know, the sadistic aspect of these 2 figures, well known for the dreamer. And so it talks about sadism in art. And these people make symbols. They're talking about thought. That showed you the order of medicine. Okay. And it talks about transcendence and the psyche. So you truly understand it, and how a lot of people in hospitals and secret societies, a lot of them are uglier people who want to make themselves good by getting over on better looking people. And there's a lot that goes into it a lot. You gotta understand that the way Europeans have always done things, and you know, I don't want to show you too many more pictures. I'm running short on time here, but if I can only find this one last picture that shows you a group of psychologists and people who specialize in psychoanalysts, and they basically are studying men, and you can tell by the way they look, you know, very secret society like this to them, very wicked people plotting on us, you know, unscrupulous, violent people who are sadists, and they mix a lot of different cultures, and they meet a lot of psychos who think the same way, whose life philosophy overlaps with their, you know, philosophy for population control, for instance, eugenics. It's all really touched on in this book, but it's not put in the same way I put it, to where you know that, hey, without a doubt, that all these people are talking about all the secret society stuff and mind control and bragging about how they're physicians and how they have power over people. And oh, here we go. You know, you can see that in one of the pictures, it talks about Voltaire and a mental kinship on a conscious level, 18th century French encyclopedists and the Dadists. So it talks about different schools of thought from, you know, centuries when this came out. Remember I talked about the French are involved in the conspiracy as well. I know I've been in such a rush, and I haven't had time to prepare myself properly for this video. That's why I had to point the camera up, but it's okay. I gotta get this information out because they're on me tough, and they're doing anything they can to bring down my videos, but I won't really get into that. Let me get to find this stupid fucking picture before I beat the shit out of the punching bag for pissing me off. Now, where the flying fuck? There's all kinds of other pictures. That's the problem with having over, what, 500 pictures, is that when it comes to finding this one in, what, a couple fucking minutes, it's no easy task, even if you fucking read the book twice. Well, I read it once, and scanned the book, you know, a couple other times, but anyway, this picture, it says right there in the excerpt that many of the great pioneers of modern psychoanalysis photographed at a Congress of Psychoanalysts in 1911 at Weimar, Germany. So notice this is 1911, psychoanalyst, the year of the Fed, around the time of the Fed, right? It was 1911, and they're doing some more alterations, 1913. So, you know, people refer to that as the key date in the Federal Reserve's history. And of course, World War I would come later. So if you look at the timeline of all these major events, psychiatry, Tai Chi, around 1808, and then all of a sudden, you know, 1911, 100 years later, here we have the evolution of it. Now they've truly got it together. They've evolved it. They've cleaned it up a bit. They dealt with a bit of the moral outrage and refined it to try to play it off, and they've continued their eugenic agenda through psychology, making you think it's okay, and psychiatry, drugging you up to die. Thank you.